So in this video, I would like to quickly outline an idea I have for the dissident right, which I call knowledge power. I didn't intend to use a neologism. It's just a lot more fluid that way. So the idea of knowledge power is actually really simple, and it came from a quote that I read from Sun Tzu, which I understand that quoting Sun Tzu is very cringe, but as many cliches go, there's a lot of truth to it. And that quote is, if you know yourself, you know your enemy, you don't have to worry about the outcome of the battle, is sort of the gist of it. Now, in my personal opinion, the culture war long term is centered around who knows what. You have one side that knows what's going on, at least from a fundamental level, and then you have another side that doesn't know what's going on or has an inferior understanding. Okay? Now, in my personal opinion, reactionaries, dissidents, conservatives, libertarians especially, well, actually not dissidents, but many factions of the conservative movement, while they're able to point out a lot of stupidities on the left, rightfully so, their core strategy is incoherent. Like what is the whole idea behind conservatism? Can you sum it up in a sentence? If you, and take a look at the leftist strategy throughout all of history. Doesn't matter what movement we're talking about. Doesn't matter whether it's an NGO or it's some sort of Marxist revolutionary offshoot or whatever. The strategy is to just break things. That's a very coherent strategy. Don't get me wrong. It's horrible what they've been doing, destroying the traditional family, distorting racial norms, distorting the way that we engage with each other in our basic speech. Clearly, that's all horrible, but it's still a coherent strategy. I can't say the same thing for conservatives. Their coherent their strategy is basically just negotiate with the left. In other words, stop doing this, stop taking my thing, stop distorting my culture. Okay, that's not a coherent strategy, or really it kind of is, but it's an inferior strategy. Okay, I would just call it incoherent because it's not an actual base solid plan. Okay, and so you have to understand that from my perspective, there is this imbalance. Okay, now one thing that I find very interesting is the fact that when you look at man's early history, okay, you see all of these giant animals, all of these megafauna, terror birds, mammoths, glyptodons, all of these things just sort of went extinct when humans came onto the scene. Now, my personal opinion is that this was humans that did this. I mean, even today, elephants are losing their tusks due to overhunting. All of these giant animals are on the endangered species list. There isn't like an abundance of elephants or rhinos. Okay, there's a lacking. Okay, they're going down to zero. They're dying in zoos. Okay, they have to get people to invest in them genetically. All right, and that's another thing too, is that the norm has always been animals are really big. Okay, we actually live in weird times where all of these animals are tiny and are non-threatening to humans, which is totally unheard of in all of our history. What's going on there, from my perspective, is that you have an imbalance of knowledge power. You have the hunter observing the patterns of the animal. And it doesn't matter how dangerous the animal is or how wily, that imbalance in knowledge power, whether it has been come to rationally or through trial and error, half the tribe gets eaten. Doesn't matter. That is why all of these creatures went extinct, because you can just easily exploit their weaknesses and all their decision making, all their patterns in a gradual way, and probably in a very aggressive way. I mean, even to the point where we can exploit these animals to do our bidding, as in the case of wolves, as in the case of livestock. So, what is important to note here is this very simple idea of one side which knows what's going on, and the other side which doesn't know what's going on. Okay? And long term, that will play out the way it plays out. I would say that the Bolsheviks definitely had a greater knowledge power over the Tsar. The same with these other leftist factions, because they're actually doing real politics, right? And it doesn't matter what we're talking about. It could be even in extreme situations where a guy is in a firing line and they just sort of shoot him. Well, if he had known how to get out of there, if he had known some sort of trick, something he could say, something that he could do to get out of that situation, he would have gotten out of that situation. Now, don't be too autistic about that, okay? But the main takeaway is that that is the key long term, okay? Because the problem is that the leftists, they have a very solid and clear foundational strategy, okay? Again, that's to break things. That is just, in whatever way you want to put it, that's all their strategy amounts to. All of this satanic pedophile LARPing, that's all it is. It's just LARPing, okay? It's just another attempt, another trial at the same underlying principle, okay? Now, as a dissident, this gives you the opportunity to actually do some real good, and that is to educate yourself. And not just educate yourself on particular trivium. We don't need to know absolutely everything about Fanged Noumena, okay? We don't need to read it 5 or 6 times, okay? We just need to know the basic ideas. We just need to know the important things from people like Spandrel, from people like Moldbug, from commentators like Charlemagne and Apollonian Germ and these other people. We just need to know the big ideas, the main important things, okay? And we have to constantly search for new ones, for new basic ideas, because those are the ones that are going to stick around, okay? I don't remember everything from, say, all the videos that Apollonian Germ has made. Really, the the main idea is looking through elites through genealogy, and that's a very important way of looking at power. Maybe this idea of the the leftism being a structural thing, maybe that's not true. Maybe it actually is just sort of people in charge making decisions. Okay, that's a very important takeaway. That's a very important thing to consider. Now, my personal opinion is that What the dissident right has to do to become a much more aggressive and effective force is to build up some sort of improved study, a mimetic complex that sort of reinforces itself, a self-propagating system where we're exchanging very important insights, very important information to everybody in a way that everybody's on the same page. Everybody knows what's going on. Everybody has access and knows about all of the important people and the important ideas in sort of a systematic way, in sort of an automatic way. And a lot of people give me a lot of grief over this. They'll tell you that this is untenable, that this is just unrealistic, that this is not going to work because they have so much data on us. And completely disagree. I think that's not true at all. I think we're in a position where we are the critiquers, we are the outsiders of the society, and we are able to observe them plainly, in plain sight. And while it is true that, well, actually, I don't really want to legitimize the analysis paralysis idea. A lot of people will just say analysis paralysis, and that's the end of it. I don't really legitimize that, but it is true that action does lead to testing. Or sorry, testing leads to discovering insights that one might not have otherwise been able to through a logical process, because it sort of follows more in the sense of like natural selection, that this worked and this didn't work. Okay, so you might not have been able to put that into words or to have rationally explained that, but the results present themselves, and you can discover insights from those results. So my personal philosophy is reductionism in materialism. I don't believe that there is any such thing as a non-materialist philosophy. For example, transcendentalism. I personally subscribe to Bill Gates' ideas, and I don't believe in things like the fourth dimension or, gluons, black holes, anything like that. No, there's just objects. The atom is held together by objects. There are only objects. Okay. And the other thing is reductionism. I do believe that any system, no matter how complex, can be broken down into common threads, into concepts which tie together many disparate pieces of information. You can do that. That's all reductionism is. It's really just a different method of looking at a scene or a menagerie of a menagerie of information. I'm not sure how to put it into words. So yes, reductionism and Gateism. Okay. I kind of lost my train of thought there. Well, I hope that this ramble has given you some places to think, and I hope that you will keep an open mind. I'm not a I'm not as well read as a lot of these other people. It's just something that I wanted to express to you because I think that it's a very, very good idea. Thank you and have a nice day.